Hi. Today we're going to be doing a refurb and a repair on the Entex Arcade Defender, which is a 1980s handheld. They're very rare, they're very hard to find, and Groot used it in Guardians of the Galaxy. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Big thank you to The Ridge for sponsoring this video. The Ridge make these stunning high-quality machined aluminium minimalist wallets, as well as weatherproof durable carrying bags, rugged power banks, premium leather phone cases, and more. Check them out at ridgewallet.com/TRF and use code TRF for 10% off. All three of the things that you see on your screen right now were featured in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sure you are pretty familiar with these items. There was one more retro item that Groot used, which I haven't managed to find yet because they're very expensive and very rare, and that is the Entex Arcade Defender. Now, this one is not in very good condition, but I'm quite happy with how much I paid for it. So I paid 20 British pounds for it, which is around sort of $25, which is a very good price for one of these things. So it takes 4 of these C-cell batteries, which of course it does. It's a 1980s handheld. Unfortunately, it is missing one battery cover. That is one of the most disappointing things about this, but there's also another very disappointing thing, and that is that the screen has a massive crack going along it. But yeah, as you can see, nothing happens when we put these batteries in. Absolutely no life whatsoever. No matter what knobs we turn and buttons we press and switches we flick, nothing is happening at all. So we need to take it apart and see what's wrong with it. Let's crack on. So there is 2 very big screws inside this thing. Literally gonna need to use like a wood screw to get those out. So let's start by removing those. All right, and then there's 4 more around here, and I don't think this screwdriver is gonna fit. So we shall go to our trusty orange screwdriver kit. Definitely check this out in the description below. So this thing was made before the Game Boy. This was released in 1981. I think this was actually a little bit of an Easter egg in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The reason why is because Avengers, before it was called Avengers, used to be called Defenders, if I remember correctly. I think that's what it was. And obviously this game's device is called Arcade Defender. So that's a little bit of an Easter egg from the Marvel guys. So fair play to them for doing that. I rate that quite a lot. Oh, okay, everything is falling off. So this is the top piece. All of the buttons have just come out, and it's not in fantastic condition. There's a load of dirt and stuff inside there. Not sure if you can see that, but we're definitely going to need to put that in the sink. It does look like the screen pops off, which is actually quite cool, which means that if I found another one, I could replace this piece and then eventually have a really nice complete unit. The crack doesn't go all the way around, which is fortunate for me because it means that this is still intact. It's just a shame that it has that crack. Not a lot we can do about anything on here. We'll probably just chuck all of this in the sink and give it a clean. And all of these buttons as well, they'll all go in the sink, and we'll scrub them up with some hot soapy water. This membrane here is actually being cut by hand. Otherwise it would have hit this solder joint here, but that's really funny. Someone would have had to have sat and cut every single one of those. It is a little bit torn, but that should be okay still. We'll definitely give these a massive clean as well. They're quite grotty. So all of this stuff doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. These 2 separate pieces have actually been soldered on. These are sort of connected by some header pins and are permanently soldered on. So we can't do a lot about that. So we shall just remove all of the screws. Annoyingly as well, this plastic here is really badly torn. So I don't know if someone's been in here before, and I'm not sure what effect that's going to have if we don't use that, but I guess if we can even get this thing turned on, we can figure out what the implications of not having this would be. Alright, here we go. Moment of truth. Let's lift up the motherboard and see what it's like underneath. Okay, so not too bad actually. Yeah, not bad at all. There is no immediate damage under there, which is very good, which makes me think that all of these little pads here that are sort of joined together in a series are what is causing the problem. They are actually a little bit corroded if you look up closely. So maybe if we just resolder all of that and potentially put a fresh wire in, it should be okay. Yeah, you can definitely see up there where there's like a bypass DC in jack. It's incredibly corroded and oxidized. So yeah, not fantastic. We are going to try and take this little piezo speaker out so that we can chuck this in the sink and give it a clean, although it's been held in by melted plastic in true 80s fashion. There we go, pretty simple, just take that off. And now what we're going to do is desolder these two wires so that we can actually just lift off this whole board. I'll put a little bit of flux on each of those joints to hopefully help with the fact that it's really corroded. So there we go, there is the motherboard, the whole motherboard removed. So now that we've got this black piece freed, what we want to do is remove this DC jack here. The second I remove this, the wire actually broke straight off of this contact here. So that's definitely going to need to have a new wire soldered to it. So let's continue removing these wires here and then put everything in the sink. It's time to clean this baby up and get it looking mighty fine. I'll run the tap and get some antibacterial hand soap in there, then give everything a once over with an ultrasonic toothbrush. Unfortunately, one of the buttons went down the sink's overflow hole, but we'll deal with that later. Time to rinse everything off and leave it to dry. Now, let's deal with the components. I'll start by leaving the DC jack in some isopropyl alcohol to soak, then give the whole board a clean with some more IPA and a toothbrush. Dripping some IPA into a switch and then moving it about is a great way to clean the inside contacts. Speaking of which, we're also going to give the buttons a clean. I'll remove the remainder of this plastic sheet and then clean off the residue. This is the time to Mr. Sheen the bottom housing. Moving on to the electronics, I tinned up all of the pads and resoldered everything, replacing the wires when necessary. So before we put this whole thing back together, let's talk about the elephant in the room. As I mentioned earlier on, I lost one of the buttons down the drain. There should be 8 buttons. And for the quicker of you lot, you may count that there is 8 here now. And that is because my friend Tim 3D printed me one. I basically sent him a message and said, look, I've lost my button. Is there any way you can help? Tim is a massive collector of arcade machines and he happens to have Arcade Defender on both the actual arcade and the handheld version. So he just took his apart, took some measurements and well, printed one off. And honestly, there is absolutely no way you can actually tell which one is the 3D printed one. His is a very, very high quality 3D printer. He's done a little bit of sanding and polishing. And if I actually show you, this one right here on the right-hand side is the 3D printed one. Oh, there it goes. You can't actually notice a single difference, really, at all. It's just so perfect. He's polished it all up and yeah, it looks lovely. So honestly, Tim, huge thank you to you, my friend. There we go, all the buttons sat back in there nicely. And then we can drop our membranes in. So we need to make sure we put the one that goes on there on the right side, which is this one, actually the right side. And then we can take this and just drop it in like that and put our screws back in. Okay, and we shall put our C-cell batteries back in. Maybe Tim could 3D print me a battery cover. I don't know, we'll have to ask Tim. I'm trying to get him to make a YouTube channel because he does some seriously cool stuff. So here we go, let's turn it over. And, oh God, that's why I need the battery covers. Yeah, we're not getting anything at all. Why is that? Oh, there we go, it works. Ah, okay, so that must be down to the rust that's inside this battery contact, which I did try and clean off, but it hasn't worked. I've taken this small little piece of tin foil and we shall chuck it in front of the battery, and that should just make a nicer contact. It's a little bit bodgy, but I'll take it apart and do it again properly later on. At least we know it works. Alrighty, here we go. So, let's press start. Look at that. Oh my goodness me. No, don't take my alien man. Give him back. Wow, this is working an absolute treat. I'm not noticing any specific difference without that piece of plastic there. We're still getting like colours and stuff, obviously, so should be absolutely fine without it. I can see why Groot got addicted to this game. Oh, this is an absolute amazing little treat. Right, let's try and get to a screen and we'll use our... Oh no, that's my hyperspace. I didn't want to use that. Let's use our smart bomb. Just blew them all up. So there we go. We have a finished Arcade Defender by Entex. Very, very happy with how it has turned out. I think it looks absolutely stunning. I really hope you guys have all enjoyed this video. Big shout out to Tim for helping me fix the issue of losing a button. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.